Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside the Birds Postgame Live. Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan here with Eagles Hall of Fame offensive tackle Trey Thomas. Guys, let me start by saying this. The Eagles were just awful on third down today. 3 of 11, just 27%. No, I'm kidding. I mean, that's true, but who cares? The Eagles just beat the Titans 35-10. A game that looked a lot different than I think a lot of people thought it would look like. Nonetheless, the Eagles continued their roller coaster ride. A lot to take away, a lot to go through. Great contributions on both offense, defense, and special teams. We will get into all of that. Adam, I'll start with you. What is just your overall big picture takeaway from this game?
Yeah, this is a coach's game, guys. This is something we talk about in our pregame show. Coaches are going to be on task here to get them going here. And the thought process was obvious on offense. They're going to come out throwing and not stop and be relentless. Throw the running game out. Who cares? And they went after it. And they saw blood in the water, as the saying would go, and they went after it. That was pretty impressive. No one's done this to the Titans like this. This is in week 2, the Bills did. It wasn't quite the way that the shot plays. Eagles were relentless with the shot plays. It was really incredible. In fact, if they did, I want to get to Trey on the penalties because it was just absurd. I don't know what the hell was going on there, but they were able to. That's the other things. They were able to overcome so many bad penalties, holding, false starts, timing issues on the line. I don't know what that was about, but it didn't stop them from scoring, which is remarkable.
Trey, I'm sure as an offensive lineman, those false starts and holds probably rankled you. But again, we're looking big picture here. We'll get to that in a second. Eagles are 11-1. They have now scored 75 points in their last 2 games after, it looked a little dicey without Dallas Goedert in that first game against the Colts. Your big picture takeaway about this team right now?
I mean, I think this game right here answered a lot of questions. I think everybody going into this game, everybody thought Tennessee was going to be the big test. This is going to be the test. That's all you heard all week. This is going to be the test to see how this team is going to do it with a physical team. They've already shown that other teams can run on you. So now you have Henry coming to town. How is this team going to answer the test? And, I mean, they did. I mean, they came out there, shut down the run. A.J. Brown just went out there and had his way with this defense. Even our special teams got fired up and made some plays. So it seems like everybody took this challenge and took it to heart and came out there and put their best foot forward.
What really stood out to me is that the Titans kind of came in, as you guys were talking about, with that reputation. They make games ugly. They're tough. They're physical. They play above their actual level of talent. But you watch this game and throw the penalties away. I know they were ugly, but both teams had them. But the Eagles were the aggressor, and they were the bullies. They didn't let Tennessee run the ball. They did what they wanted offensively. They hit hard. They tackled well. And as we talked about with special teams, even on that, I thought the Eagles looked like the aggressor today, which is sort of taking Tennessee's quote identity and bringing it onto them. But they've really been that all year long. It's just that sometimes they have these games where things work so well. They look like a finesse team, but they can hit you with finesse. They can hit you with power. I don't know if the Eagles will win the Super Bowl, but I do believe after 11 games here that they are the most complete team in the NFL. Agree? Disagree?
I would say in the NFC, for sure.
No,
NFC.
I'm taking it to NFL level because I've watched a lot of Chiefs and I've watched the Bills and some other teams. I think the Eagles can adapt. Let me put it this way, Adam. I think the Eagles can adapt to whatever they need to do to win, maybe more so some other teams.
Well said. Love the way you said that because that's really been the story of this game. If you shut down this area, they'll move it on this area. So they have all these bad penalties. They still score 35. And obviously they left points on the board there. But because sometimes you can't keep asking your offense to go third and long when you might have had a third and short. They'll get those things cleaned up. And this has been the story of Sirianni since he's been here. When they've had bad penalty problems, they usually get this cleaned up. But this is an impressive from pillar to post. This is another game, by the way, they did not trail. They got up 7-0, scored on the first series. Tennessee would tie it. Then they would start rolling after that. And I love that they found something on tape, and I'm sure their advanced people, their pro personnel people help them in their notes from knowing the Titans. We talked about this in the pregame show. Geoff, you had those numbers about where the Titans stood with the pass defense. Well,
yeah,
Eagles have these numbers, and they have the tape. It clearly shows you why would you run the football. This is what Bill Belichick has always said. about matchups and so forth. There was a year when the Vikings had one of the best run defenses in NFL history. They literally threw on every down. Well, why? And they wound up winning big. Why would you even waste your time? The Titans had no answer. That poor undrafted free agent got leveraged by Brown. That's the epitome of this game. Know the matchups and exploit them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good point on the whole poor defensive back, because my God, he was right there. We'll talk about that. Let's get in and talk about the Eagles offense, Trey, against this Titans defense, this defense that was very lopsided. They're ranked low against the pass, I think 29th in pass defense, but top 3 run defense. Adam just said it. The Eagles said, we're going to come out and pass against you, but it also seemed, Trey, like the Titans dictated that by playing early on a lot more man coverage than they normally do. And the Eagles seemed content to say, all right, what stuck out to me is that when they didn't false start, Jalen Hurts had some nice protection early on.
Oh, yeah, the protection was awesome. I think that the offensive line did a really good job of protecting first. And, once they got out of all the penalties, there were times that Jalen Hurts just had all day to do what they wanted to do. I know at one time, everybody was talking about the rush that Tennessee was going to bring, but it seemed like this offensive line was not fazed by it at all. They did a really good job of playing with extension. A lot of times when I watch them play, I'm always looking to see if they're playing with their arms all the way out. For me, I like for your tackles to have and guards to play with their arms out, because now you're playing with extension. It makes it a lot easier for you to switch off games. It makes it a lot easier for you to control guys. You don't want to be bodied up with the defenders a lot of times. So, you saw the guys playing with a lot of extension out there, and they had their way with them. And I mean, Jalen Hurts, there were times where they said, all right, we're going to spread this defensive out. We got a 5-man box. All right, then now I'm going to run the ball. So that's all this offense is all set up for. If we can spread you out, then now we can hit you in all different ways. And I think that the more you get Quez Watkins involved into this offense, the more deadly the other guys are going to be, just because he's so fast out there on the field.
Yeah, 3rd in targets with 6, and he had 5 catches for 37 yards. Probably, I think he had a couple taken back too by a penalty here or there. Adam, what was the one thing we zeroed in on in the pregame show when we talked about Jalen Hurts? His development as a
deep passer. Yeah.
I mean, here and by the way, the big number for you has been that the Eagles have not thrown the ball 30 or more times since the Jacksonville game. That's quite a while. Well, today, 39 throws, to your point about attacking the corners and going deep, 29 completions, 380, and the deep ball, the ball placement from this guy has been great really this year.
Oh, he's a top 10 passer now as a deep ball thrower. And you remember, folks, over 20 yards is a lower percentage throw, but he continues to improve. The protection, Trey's right. I'd have to think about this, guys. I don't know if there was a better protected game for Hurts this season than this one. It was simply incredible. I know that there's services that are out there that time the release from the snap and the throw. I would love to know what the release was today, because it seemed like he had sometimes 5 or 6 seconds to throw the football. It's pretty remarkable. And I just thought that coaches did a phenomenal job of getting these guys schooled up. And what else could you say? I mean, when the protection matches the quarterback's ability to throw the ball deep, the defense is in trouble. And that's what you saw today.
No doubt about it. Trey, I want to go back to you on the protection and the deep ball, because you did such a great breakdown in the offseason of Jalen Hurts last year showing signs of leaving the pocket early, not because of pressure from the opponent all the time, but maybe they're blitzing and a running back kind of tries to pick up the blitz, the color going across his face. I imagine you're seeing because the Titans did blitz a few times in the first and second quarters. I imagine you've seen a different Jalen Hurts in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. You could tell that he trusts the protection. There were times last year he didn't trust the protection. You took a couple of hits, you get a little skittish in the pocket, and then now you're like, all right, I'm going to just try to make a play with my legs. But I think now you can see that he's trusting the protection, and he sits in there and he knows that these guys got him. Now, they gave up the one hit after Dickerson's went out. You get Dillard coming in, and that was something that shouldn't have happened. It seemed like it was a regular pass protection. Mailata should have set out there for the defensive end. I don't know why unless Kelsey called a rocket, which is like a 5-man slide to the right. There was no need for Dillard to hang in there with, no need for Mailata to hang in there with Dillard and leave the defensive end coming through clean, because you don't want to do that. You know,
So that's
just
the
give a
second time
defensive.
that's happened, right? Didn't he do that in the Houston game as well? I forget who it was, but he sort of double teamed
Yeah,
with the guard and forgot to take the outside rusher, was it?
yeah. Well, it was something I think against the Houston game they had a stunt or something
Right.
where they got kind of jammed up on. But in this particular play, they should have just it was a regular pass protection that should have been handled. And then the other sack, I think it was when they it was kind of like a little play action, and they're putting the tight end on the defensive end. Like, come on, man, you got to get back out there, put the tackle out there to kind of help him out. I wouldn't expect the tight ends to hold a defensive end on his own.
Of course. So now that we're bringing it up, let's kind of get the dirty stuff out of the way. I've never seen so many false starts for a home team before. I mean, that to me is the shocking thing, and it's easy. Sometimes a guy has a bad game, but literally every single guy I think on the line, every starter got tagged for false start. Do you think that that's because of the Titans' reputation? Like, what could be going on there?
I don't know, because I mean, the first play of the game was Lane Johnson false start. You know, so it's sometimes as an offensive lineman, and I know Coach Sirianni said something earlier during the play saying that, you know what, we're making a lot of pre-snap calls and all of that. And as a lineman, you're all coiled up and you're ready to go. And any sound that you hear, you're ready to go. So who knows? Like, I'm going to go back, and when I watched the all 22, I probably have a better feel for what it was. Because sometimes, I know last year I did a study on it where Jalen Hurts was calling for the ball. You could see him calling for the ball, but the ball wasn't being snapped on time. So there were a couple times that happened, but I'm not quite sure what it was for this game here until I watched all 22. I'd be able to really get a good feel for it.
Well, we may have to have you back on ITB TV this week just to give us the results of your study. Because I've really, Adam, I don't know if you can you ever recall a home game for any team, the Eagles, anybody, that had that many holdings and false starts?
It's crazy. 12 penalties. And it's funny, Greg. I heard what Greg also said. He said like he was joking, maybe 1,000. He said, but it seemed like 20 penalties. It seemed way worse than it was. It was bad. It was embarrassing. And to happen so early in the game, I don't know that it was terrible. And as you said, it's a home game anyway, but I don't think it was also very loud. Right. I don't know. I wonder what the players will say. I would certainly like to read their quotes, which we'll get later. But bottom line is, they were dominant offensively in spite of some bad penalties in offense by their offensive linemen. They still were able to overcome that against one of the best defenses, scored 35. This typically will not happen, but that shows the toughness of these guys to overcome it and still hold their water when they needed to.
Now, one thing I did see though is that they did go silent count at one point. You know, after a couple of those penalties, they started going silent count. Okay. For them to go silent count at home, that's a little awkward. You know, I don't know.
What would be, I know you just said you don't know, but I'm going to give you a couple seconds here to think about it. What would be a reason to use the silent count at home? Is there any stability? They were unstable. Is there any more stability that the silent count would give you?
I know that sometimes, okay, when we would do 2 minute for us, I would prefer to go silent count, because then I don't have to worry about McNabb's cadence. I don't want to have to listen. I want to look at the center's head, and I'm going off the timing there. I would prefer when we went 2 minute no huddle and we just trying to get down the field, I want to go silent count. I don't want to hear the quarterback's cadence. But I don't know, unless it's a volume issue, because that's the only reason that you want to go silent count, for a home game for them, because I know that Jalen is pretty vocal with his cadence, and it doesn't seem like he has any hitch in it. Sometimes with McNabb, when there was a blitzer or something, his rhythm of his cadence would change. So, because for us, we're listening to the rhythm of the cadence. It's that blue 88 said, Hut, you know when to go. But when he goes blue 88, and you drag it, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So that's some of the things that that would throw it off a couple times, but I'm not quite sure what it was for them.
Well, something tells me it's going to be the School of Hard Knocks this week at Jeff Stoutland University.
Yeah.
There's going to be some Fs given out, a lot of red circles around for discipline. But pass protection, though, Adam, I mean, you talk about that, like the semicircle. On the first and second possessions, Jalen Hurts, before the touchdowns, which were amazing, had some really nice third down conversions. And I thought it was really, great throws, great vision and everything. But, that protection was just so valuable at that point. And this is a Titans D-line that's known for getting after guys.
The snap to release, it's amazing how much time he had, and he probably had 4 or 5 throws that were off, a little bit low, but overall his deep passing was remarkable. And AJ Brown now has two games where he's had more than one touchdown, and I love how he leveraged on that corner, that UDFA corner, Avery.
Yeah.
The kid's right on him, right there. And
I'm a little surprised a flag didn't come out for holding because his arms were around him, but it didn't matter. He caught it anyway.
But he was there. But what I would go back to training camp when we saw Brown, he would leverage the corner, never get called for a flag in training camp. They'll call it. They have referees at just about every practice, and they would not call it. And it's very subtle what he does. He doesn't go like this if you're watching this on YouTube here, but it may be just a slight shove, slight push, a leverage, a right arm to get leverage, and he did it again. And that right now is pretty remarkable. He's on pace for 13 to 14 touchdowns. Pretty remarkable here.
Absolutely everything they wanted when they traded for him. And I thought it was interesting that Burks had that touchdown too. The replacement had the touchdown before he went out. But there is just a physical element of AJ Brown's game, Trey, that I think is unique and special. And really, as an Eagles wide receiver, I know we've talked about this before. Yet T.O. had such a cup of coffee here; it's hard to count it. But just we have not seen that. We've been used to the smaller, shiftier guys for the last 15 years. This guy is unique.
He is, and he has that same bravado, like a T.O., like somebody that's gonna go out there and talk trash. Yep. You can't stop me. There's nothing you could do to stop what's going on. And I like the energy that he plays with. And that can be contagious when you have a player like that that's out there that's just giving you everything he's got. He's talking trash to everybody, and there's nothing they could do about it. And I mean, that one touchdown, though, a lot of people, you say A.J. Brown, that was a beautiful catch, but the ball placement, where Jalen Hurts put that ball was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was right where it needed to be. There you go. Right there on his shoulder here in great coverage. And Jalen Hurts puts the ball exactly where it needs to be, touchdown.
By the way, Jeff was just going to say, they had the same exact chemistry in training camp. This is just a carryover. It's pretty remarkable. And by the way, Skinny Batman also had a pretty good game.
I've never seen a guy catch a 40-yard touchdown before, have it reversed, and then go and catch a 40-yard touchdown on the absolute next play. And he got even more open on the second one because he put Fulton in a blender there, and I think Fulton got hurt on the play and had to leave. So what an amazing effort by the entire Eagles offense. And now the conversations about what are they going to do without Dallas Goedert, who will be back soon enough, don't seem to be as problematic. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, by the way, you mentioned Goddard and not problematic. Eagles tight ends today, 4 catches, 60 yards. I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Got involved there more. Jack Stoll also contributing on special teams. We'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah. All right, we will move on to the Eagles defense. Before we do that, we'll stop real quick, take a pause as we hear from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
Game night for me is every night. At the place where I meet up with the guys, grab a cold one, and watch the big game on the big screen. So whether it's the money line, the pass line, or a parlay, I'm in it to win it. This is my city, and this is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook, the host site of Inside the Birds pregame live. And speaking of Inside the Birds pregame live, one of our main points of emphasis was on sort of the Eagles' run defense, the inconsistency of it, but also how the Titans have not really been a prolific running team for the last 3 weeks. Derrick Henry averaging 2.9 yards per carry going into this game over the last 3 weeks. But still, I think people had some concerns that Derrick Henry was going to get his mojo back against this Eagles run defense, Adam. Now, I think people thought Jordan Davis, healthy, would be out there. He was not out there a whole lot. This to me was probably one of their better gang tackling from front to back efforts that we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, the fact you saw Epps, they moved the corners up, the safeties up. They all were very disciplined against the run. I mean, this is what Jim Schwartz used to say when he plays wide nine. For that scheme to work, the back end's got to tackle well. And boy, did they tackle well today. Because when you stop the Titans running game, you pretty much stop them. when you're up 14 over this team, it's pretty much over. In fact, I remember I said to you, like, very early in the fourth quarter, I'm like, they need to take the starters out. The Titans have no chance.
Yeah.
And it went up being that way. It's just an impressive win. Guys, do you think this is the most impressive win of the season? I'd like your thoughts on that one.
I think so. Because this is one of the teams, this was supposed to be the test. This was the big test that everybody was talking about, especially when you have a couple games where you're getting run over. Washington had their way with you, and then all the other teams that kind of came in and showed that this team was weak as a defense, was weaker on stopping the run. But now here we go. We come in and answer the bell, and you got Derrick Henry, one of the most, punishing running backs that we've seen in a while. And now they come out there and just handle their business and shut them down. And they come out of there with 6 sacks as well. Yeah. So you shut down the run and you come out of there with 6 sacks. That was just a very impressive win for this team.
See, Adam, I agree with what you guys are saying. I still think the Vikings win, seeing what the Vikings are right now, and the way they just dominated that game front to start. And that Vikings team was fairly healthy. It was only week 2. This Titans team, if you remember on the pregame show, I felt that they were going to win by 15. I think I picked a 24-9 win. Yeah. And now I did not see, you never know how it's going to be. They wind up winning by 25. So it's definitely up there, but the Titans are missing a ton of players. I'm not taking anything away from the Eagles. I'm just saying, I think the Vikings win is still in my mind more impressive, especially seeing how Minnesota has played since that loss, but this would definitely be right up there with one of them, because I know why you're saying. Everybody kind of had a concern that because the Eagles have trouble stopping the run, and this might be a bully ball type game for the Titans, and how good of a coach Mike Vrabel is, that this would at least be a tight game, and the Eagles dominated it. That to me is the biggest pleasant surprise about it, is how well they asserted themselves from front to start, and then they just didn't let up until the fourth quarter when they're putting backups in.
If you look at the points they've given up over the last 8 weeks, it's like very little.
Yeah.
And then they run into a buzzsaw today in Philly. The thing about the Minnesota game, though, was Ed Donatel did not do a good job as the coordinator for the Vikings. Remember, he played so soft. They gave up. They didn't pressure Hurts at all. That was a poorly coached game by him. That's a lot of people we spoke to told us that. Yep. This is a game where Eagles just brought it to him. The thing that's interesting, the Eagles brought their hard hats to this game. I was concerned about the physicality of Tennessee. We talked about this on our pregame show.
Sure.
How are they going to react? And they were the ones to bring it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you one thing, Trey. What really impresses me about the Eagles, based on what Adam said, is not only did Tennessee come in with this reputation, and they're very good at sticking to their identity, and they're good at lulling you into their style of game. And I think you can kind of argue that at 7-7, when Treylon Burks catches that touchdown pass, right, which is still the first quarter, that was the Titans' that the Eagles had probably false started about 6 times by then. There were some other penalties in there. Again, they were up 7-0, and then it's gone because Treylon Burks, they're giving up passing yards there. And it kind of had that feel of a game that was going to get ugly in the way that the Titans wanted it to be. And the Eagles didn't let it from that point on. As soon as A.J. Brown caught the 40-yard touchdown pass and they went up, you just started to see the Eagles would not allow the Titans to ugly it up with them, which is tough.
Which is tough. And that's what you want. You want a team that sees blood in the water and they just turn it on even more. When they say, okay, when you got their foot on your throat, when you had a foot on someone's throat, what you do, you lift your other foot so you can put a little bit more weight on it. And that's what this team did. They just went out there and just continued to pour it on, and to the point where you could pull your starters out with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's quite impressive.
When the Eagles scored when Jalen Hurts scored his 2-yard rushing touchdown right before half, and it's 21-10, my mother's in town. She was watching the game with me, and I said, the game is over. And she said, well, hey, come on, it's NFL. I've seen, and she's right to say that, by the way. But I went back to something that we talked about on the pregame show. And Adam, I'm sure you'll agree. That Titans offensive line, the left side of it especially, in my opinion, would not be able to hold up with the Titans now down by 11 points and then needing to throw the ball. And as soon as the Eagles went up and got the 28, I said, now it's definitely over, even though that was early in the third quarter. There's still plenty of time left to play. But just as we talked about that left side of the line, as soon as the Titans were down and they had to pass, Adam, you saw it, right? Josh Sweat, who was my player to watch. Your player to watch was Hassan Reddick. That was like a little meet me at the quarterback.
I'm just going to say that was the line that Jaws used to talk about. Harold Carmichael and Jaws would say, "Let's meet me at the pylon," because he would throw the fade.
Sure.
Well, this is meet me at the quarterback. So Reddick had 4 quarterback hits. Reddick sweated 3. They had a great game. Cox's energy was really good. No, we talked about this. We said Dennis Daly's in trouble, the left tackle. He's not a left tackle at this level. I don't know why the Titans don't. Maybe they don't think Raven Clark could do it. That's fine. Dennis Daly's a backup guard right tackle. And that's why I had Reddick as my guy. I thought he'd have his way. Aaron Brewer's a good player, but he's a very small guard. He's about 280.
Right.
And they dominated. No, you set it up well. They absolutely dominated the left side. I would say their defense, Eagles defense, did what we thought it would do. Now, were they helped by Treylon Burks' injury after, when he got the touchdown, he got knocked out of the game? Yeah, sure. Eagles wouldn't have lost the game, but they would have been able to make more explosive plays, because one of the things that they wanted to do, Tennessee, they wanted to burn the Eagles in the slot. You and I talked before the game. In fact, we were driving home, and I said, you're going to watch. They're going to use Burks, and they're going to go after Scott. And they did it. He scored, and he probably would have kept doing it, but he got hurt.
Trey, why, just watching the game and the Titans plan seemed to be they were going to try to throw the ball a little bit more than normal. I know they had more throws than runs going into halftime. And it looked like they tried to work play action, thinking, Eagles thinking they were going to run. Why do you think that didn't work for them? And why did Derrick Henry have such a tough time finding space?
Well, I think because Derrick Henry is more of an inside zone runner, so everything, most of his runs are going to be in between the tackles. And then, when you go into a game already knowing that, then, all right, hey, let's clog up that middle. Everybody come in. Let's clog up the middle. All right. Now, once we get up a couple scores on you, now you're playing into our secondary hand, because we got one of the best secondaries in the league. And then now our pass rushers can really get after. I mean, you saw Fletcher Cox, because Fletcher Cox, that one on the one sack that he had, I mean, he could have let the quarterback just go ahead and just run out of bounds. No, Fletcher Cox turned on the Jets a little bit. Hey, got him a sack. There you go. That's what you're looking for. I mean, when Sue turned it on that one time and beat the guard, I mean, you had so many guys out there just being extremely active. It just shut it down. And once you're down, once we get this Tennessee team to make where they have to pass, they were in trouble. They were out of the game.
Absolutely. By the way, sacks are money, Trey. You know that. So
absolutely,
those guys aren't going to let a guy run out of bounds. They're going to touch him first.
No, let me get that. Let me touch them. Yeah.
Get that sack. And then good point on the Treylon Burks. And Adam, you brought this up too in the pregame show, and we talked about sort of the two things that the Eagles have not done well over the last 3 weeks is, one, being inconsistent versus the run, and two, it seems like every big play they've given up through the air has come from the slot, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously that's been where Josiah Scott has been playing for Avonte Maddox. Treylon Burks got him pretty good. So we'll have to see if Avonte can get into the practice window and get active, because that is an area that when you're playing a more advanced or sophisticated running passing team, whether it's the Cowboys or I don't know, maybe the Giants next week, where you just get a little concerned for this team if there's a close game, if it's tight.
The good thing for the Eagles is that they're facing two teams that don't throw the ball very well. The Giants don't. They run it fairly well, but they don't throw it very well. And then Justin Fields runs the ball very well, but they don't have a great receiver group. So I don't worry about too much. But yeah, you're right. The game plan now is just to use your receivers inside. They don't necessarily have to have a main slot guy.
Right.
You just start lining guys up inside until Scott could stop them. But because they've been so dominant in offense, it really has it's to the point it's not going to cost them a game. But I think on your point, later in the season, if Maddox continues to deal with this hamstring issue, because there's no saying that he'll be back this coming week for week 14. It's something that's going to be a problem. And I'm interested to find out how Blankenship played it. It looked like he made some good plays in the first half. And look, you knew the bull's eye would also be on him as well.
Yeah. By the way, you say the Giants don't have weapons, but after that 2020 to tie against Washington today, the phone calls over to Odell Beckham Jr. might start to pick up a little bit in intensity.
Yep.
And he might have a new team by tomorrow. We'll see. Jordan Davis, real quick, didn't play a whole lot of snaps. I don't think any of us realistically expected him to be able to play a couple of snaps. Someone thought I thought I saw a tweet from a reporter that they thought he kind of limped off the field at one point. I didn't get a good viewpoint of it. But Trey, were you expecting Jordan Davis to play a whole lot today?
No, coming off an injury, I knew you mix him into the rotation, get a couple plays, because I mean when you've been sitting that long and then you get thrown into a game like that, you don't want to risk the chance of another injury. So, just mix him into it. You're going to continue to build up his reps as you stay down this process.
There you go. And Adam, Nakobe Dean getting 5 tackles in there.
Yeah.
I saw some time on
There you
defense. That
go.
was,
With Kaiser White getting hurt, was it a leg injury? What do we know what they called it?
I don't know. I thought, knee. I think questionable. He was to return.
Okay.
So we'll have to see on that.
Yeah, we'll have to. So we now know that Dean would be his replacement,
right?
And obviously Dean's a different type of player. Although he can blitz, he was big time blitzer at Georgia. So we'll see if he has to play this week. It'll be interesting time to look at him with Saquon Barkley as a big opponent this week. But what just a from pillar to post, a very dominant win where I think we would all agree. There are some questions coming in. Could they stop the run? Check. How would the special teams be? Actually good. In fact, they were a good factor, not a bad factor. And really they didn't have to run the ball very much. When they did, they were just average.
Right.
But the running game was a non-factor as we thought it would be. They came out throwing, and I would just tell you that if this game had been close, I mean, Hurts clearly could have thrown for 500 yards in this game. They had no answer.
They did not. I agree with you on that. All right, we're going to take a real quick pause here to hear from our friends from Sky Motor Cars.
Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. If you go see them out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. You can also visit them at SkyMotorCars.com. And of course, always check out PHLSportsNation.com. They are enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. Now, fellas, if the Eagles stop the run like they did against the Titans, and if they have special teams, as Adam just mentioned, they may not lose again, because that's really their only two issues. And as Adam mentioned, Hurts could have thrown for 500 if he was in there. One play what really stood out, it sort of set the tone. Luther Ellis's son, Christian Ellis. I accidentally tweeted Luther Ellis because I'm old and senile, but Christian Ellis made a big play on kickoff coverage to start the game. Him and Jack Stoll kind of combined, and that was the guy that they elevated for the first time to rectify some of their issues. And it's funny how this gets widespread, right? Because not only do they do a good job on kickoff coverage, but then Britton Covey gets a couple of nice returns, no issues with fake punts, it was about as perfect of a game as the Eagles could have this year on special teams. Did you expect Ellis would just kind of that's his thing, right, Adam, is that he has a lot of speed,
really fast. In fact, not that he was going to make the team, but we had heard that his speed was so good they wanted to develop him. Look, when you have a guy in the practice squad, it's really not so much about this season. It's seeing what he can do. Maybe next year you bring him to their offseason program, see if you can push to make the team. And also, obviously, the big thing is to get him on special teams. Maybe he could be a core special teams player for the future. Mm-hmm. And here you go. He made a play today. Stahl had a great game today. He also had some good blocks.
Yeah.
I don't know, quite frankly, if he's ever going to be the guy for right now. He's clearly the two. There was never any competition for it, but is he the guy for the next 4 to 5 years to back up Goddard? I don't know if they know that yet, but he certainly has shown some good signs this season.
Trey, along with Christian Ellis and Stoll, Nakobe Dean, I think you saw open up the third quarter kickoff cover. He put a missile. I mean, he laid somebody out in kickoff coverage. Andre Chachre later in the game did the same. Covey with the returns. Do you get the feeling when you see that after 2 really bad games in a row that there was a heightened coaching points this week? Like there were some coaches getting in the players and to start to step up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your job's on the line as a coach. And if you're over a segment, if you know that you're the weak, no one wants to be the weak link on the chain, and I think Mike went in and made some changes, the necessary changes that needed to be happening for the special teams. I do like seeing Boston Scott back there returning kicks.
Yeah.
You know, I am a big fan of seeing Boston Scott back there. You
Yes.
know, and I wouldn't even mind seeing him in doing some punts. I like seeing running backs at that punt return too, man. But, you know, I take him at kickoff return. But I think that overall, the group really accepted the challenge and tightened up their game.
I did question his decision to catch that kickoff, that short kickoff at the 3, which he took out to the 11. I didn't understand quite why he did that. Unless
that one
has some amazing ability to read
that one out.
Yeah. Maybe he's got just an amazing ability to read the trajectory of a kickoff and didn't think it was going to go out of the end zone after it bounced. But I don't know. But in general, yeah, I do like. I think he gets a little bit better of a head of steam going as a running back when he's secure with the ball. So that was good too. The concern you might have, well, I don't know. It depends. Sean Bradley is a good special teamer for them. He left also with an injury, but you know, again, they just called up Christian Ellis and he did a pretty good job. Quez Watkins is another guy we'll have to look for because, Adam, I agree with you. I thought his presence in the game and the matchups, he's starting to, I think, create sort of, even when he doesn't get the ball, there's the attention there because of his speed. I'm noticing that they're lining him up outside as much as the slot now, and I have to think that that's because they want to, you know, take advantage of that speed. If he could not play and Zach Pascal gets in, which we'll find out later this week, but that would be a little bit tough for their offense.
Yeah, because by the way, it's a left shoulder injury, and he does bring something. Because when they get Goddard, assuming this is not a long-term injury, and when they get Goddard back, hopefully for them in Week 15,
right?
They're learning more about Quez Watkins by the week, and he's all of a sudden he's become a big factor since Goddard got hurt. So you put Goddard back there with his ability, flat out, he's a big super freak athlete at tight end. But Watkins could flat out fly. Brown and Smith. This is a pretty good foursome here. I didn't know. I wasn't still coming into this season. We weren't really sure exactly what Watkins' role would be. We knew he's a deep threat out of the slot,
right?
But he's showing a little bit better versatility, and that's certainly pretty important for this team.
Absolutely, and yet another guy that Jalen Hurts has shown that he's starting to trust more.
Yep.
So when you get that, that's why you get 75 points the last 2 weeks. All right, the Giants up next, the Bears after that, and then that Christmas Eve game against the Cowboys. I don't know, guys. I'm starting to think more and more, as much as that might be the concept of it might be a great matchup, I'm not quite sure that it's going to be a starters versus starters type game the way things are going. You guys at this point think that game's going to be relevant?
Well, here's the problem. The Eagles still are only have, I know they have the tiebreaker against Minnesota, but Minnesota somehow once again won.
Sunday. You're right, because there'll still be 2 weeks left after that. So they're gonna have to play.
And I'm fascinated to see, because now we know that the NFL's junked you can only be on primetime 5 times this season.
Right.
So my greatest fear, and for anyone who covers the NFL for a living, is if one of the Eagles game gets flexed to primetime. It won't be that week, but I'm talking about week 17 and week 18. Week 18 is completely wide open, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, Minnesota has the Lions next week, who are playing a lot better, by the way. Throttled the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah. And then they have the Colts. So they really can't afford to slip up. I mean, I guess that should be 2 wins, but that Lions game will be very, very interesting. Yeah. All right, that's been a great post-game show. Thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to Sky Motor Cars. Thanks to Rivers. For the great Trey Thomas and the great Adam Caplan, I am merely a mediocre Geoff Mosher. Thank you all for watching Inside the Birds Post-Game Live.